To my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the best beauty products to give your skin a filtered effect, to give your skin that blurred look. So I feel like I talk a lot about that on my channel, that I like products that add that kind of filtered effect to your skin, or that they have that blurring capability. And I really like that because I think it is very flattering in person. I don't like products that make you look too glowy, because I think in person it can make you look a little bit oily or greasy. And actually, when you look a little bit oily or greasy, it can emphasize texture and just make things not look so good, especially in person. Like I said, it can reflect the light in a not so flattering way. So I really like products that have that blurring capability, because I feel like in person they look absolutely beautiful. Now, I like stuff with that blurring capability, but I also like really natural looking products. So I like products that still retain that skin-like texture, that still make your skin shine and make your skin just look better. So almost like an enhanced version of your skin. Those are the products that I choose. So even though these products have that blurring capability, they're not heavy, they're not full coverage, they're not going to look cakey in person or heavy or anything like that. They're still very natural looking products. They just have that blurring capability, which I think is incredibly flattering. That is just my preference. Now, I am not someone that has oily skin, or I don't even have large pores, so I'm not sure why I am so gravitated towards those products that add that blurring effect. I think that it just looks the most flattering when you have that soft focus effect on your skin. I just think it looks really beautiful. And I feel like it's kind of a trend right now to have that blurred look, that kind of filtered appearance. Everyone pretty much uses filters on Instagram. I try not to use that stuff because I just think it's an accurate representation. So I like makeup that can give you that filtered effect without actually adding a filter to your skin. Does that make sense? I hope it does. But I just think filters are very popular right now, but I want to actually, when you see me in person, I want to look like what I represent myself on camera as well. I would hate for someone to meet me in person and I don't even look like myself, because I feel like with filters that can happen. A lot of people are just overusing them. But I promise none of my videos are filtered or anything like that. I do not use any sort of filters. I just like that filtered appearance. So most of these products are going to be complexion products, and I would also love to hear from you what some of your favorite blurring products are, because I would like to try some more out. So I'm going to start off with kind of primers, and I tried to just pick one per category because I don't want to overwhelm you with a bunch of different options. So when I am choosing an SPF that has that blurring capability, my favorite sunscreen to choose is the Chantecaille Ultra Sun Protection Broad Spectrum SPF 45 Primer. This is a sunscreen, so it's kind of like a hybrid between a primer and an SPF, which I really enjoy. So if I want my skin to have that filtered look, but I also want to be wearing an SPF and have that SPF protection, this is a sunscreen I will reach for, because I really like that it doesn't have a white cast to it. When you use this product, it just comes out as like a clear liquid, essentially. This is also an extremely liquidy product, so you do have to shake it up before you use it. It's very, very liquidy. It kind of, it comes out of the tube very quickly, so you need to work fast with this product. And it almost feels a little greasy when you first apply it. So I like that on my dry skin. I'm not sure how it would work if you have oilier skin, but it does have a really nice velvety dry down, even though it feels like it is going to apply a little bit more greasy. And then when you apply it onto the skin, you will just notice that your pores vanish, that any texture that you have is reduced, and it is just such a lovely primer to work with. I found it pairs well with any foundation or concealer that I apply over top of it. This is just a really lovely primer. And moving on to an actual primer, the best pore reducing primer, the most blurring primer that I've ever tried is the Paula's Choice Smoothing Primer Serum. This actually does have a broad spectrum SPF 30 with antioxidants, and it works for all skin types. So this primes, protects, and perfects. And this really does a beautiful job of perfecting the skin. If you want the most blurred skin, this is a fantastic primer. Now, this is silicone heavy, because that is typically what you look for in a primer if you want it to reduce the appearance of pores, or if you want it to have that blurring capability, that filtered effect. A lot of products are going to contain silicones. So because this is a silicone heavy primer, you do need to be careful with products that you are using over top. You cannot use water-based products over top of this because then you will get that pilling effect. And I think when I read some reviews, people were complaining about this pilling. So you just need to be cautious because obviously if you pair something water-based with silicone-based primers, they're just going to interfere with each other and they're going to break apart. So be cautious when you're using this primer. Just don't go in with a water-based foundation over top, and then you should be fine. And also, of course, if you use water-based skincare, that might interfere as well. But this is fantastic. So what I normally do is I'll apply my skincare. I'll wait 20 minutes just to ensure I won't get any pilling. Then I'll go in with this primer. I like to apply it just in the center of the skin, in the center of my face here, kind of the middle of the forehead, middle of the chin, anywhere where I want a little bit of mattifying and that really, really blurred effect. And then I will wait about 10 minutes before I go over top with my foundation, just so this sets in and there won't be any pilling. I've never had any issues with this pilling personally, but those are kind of the steps that I take. But this is just absolutely fantastic. I feel like Paula's Choice is such an underrated brand. One of my favorites. I think they do really fantastic skincare. And I like that this is a skincare primer hybrid. I actually have a backup of this primer as well because of how amazing it is. It's just so good. And then of course, I also wanted to mention a powder primer, which seems so bizarre, but this product actually works best as a primer. And this, wow, I'm just dropping things today. This is the Sisley Blur Expert Powder. This is actually my second compact of this. I've already gone through a full one. This is the best powder primer for that blurring capability. So if maybe you just prefer not to go in with a primer that could be a little bit more finicky, again, because you have to be careful with what products you pair it with, this is a foolproof primer. It also is really fast to apply on the skin because you can just apply it right over top of your skincare and then go in over top with foundation. You don't need to wait in between. And this does such a great job of blurring and filtering the skin instantly. So you apply it onto your skin just like you would any sort of powder. So I take a dense brush. Actually, no, that's not the brush I use. It's really important to choose a brush that is small and dense. So I use the Sonia G. This is the face one. Or sorry, it's the Master Face Brush. And I just take the powder on this brush and I kind of dab it onto the skin like this. So I'm not buffing it into the skin. I am just pressing it into the skin like that. So you press it into the pores. And honestly, before you even apply any foundation, you could probably just use this as a powder foundation, to be honest, because of the amazing job it does of just blurring the skin. It adds that beautiful soft focus effect. Things just look so poreless and beautiful. And this is, again, a great in-person primer because it just looks so beautiful. And even though you would think you were applying a powder underneath the foundation, so like I said, you apply this first, and then you go over top with your liquid foundation, you would think that it would interact with the powder and the foundation and that it might look heavy on the skin, but it doesn't. This still looks so skin-like because this powder is so finely milled. It honestly doesn't add any texture, which is so amazing. And this does look nice over top of powder. This is actually a really great retouching powder if you want to touch up your makeup throughout the day, but I don't love this to set my foundation down. I don't feel like it does as good a job of blurring when you apply it over top of your foundation as it does when you apply it underneath your foundation. So this is just a very unique product and does such a stellar job of blurring and filtering out your skin. So that is my recommendation for a powder primer if you're in the market or if you just wanted to try this. Fabulous. This is something I won't use on a daily basis, but for special occasions, this is the primer that I use. So for foundations, I wanted to mention a lighter coverage foundation and a fuller coverage foundation, just because I don't know, it's so hard to choose a foundation and I have so many great blurring foundations. So I actually did a bunch of wear tests. I compared foundations side by side. I have notes over to the side because I took notes on which one was actually the best blurring. And I always talk about the Chanel Water Fresh Tint, and this does do a great job blurring. But when I compared it side to side against the Sisley Phyto Teint Nude, the Sisley Phyto Teint Nude actually has a better blurring capability on the skin. These are very, very similar products. They are both sheer coverage products. I would say sheer buildable to light coverage. If you're looking for an actual skin tint that does not look like makeup, that just looks like your skin but better, these are the products to try. But the Sisley Phyto Teint Nude actually did a better job of adding that filtered blurring capability when you apply it onto the skin. So I like to apply it with fingers, and then I'll go in and blend it into my skin with a sponge. But it just does such a fantastic job of just making everything look completely smooth and just poreless and completely blurred on the skin. And it just makes your skin look even better. And it's just a favorite go-to of mine for an everyday product. Now, this is a little bit more expensive, and I will admit that I don't use this product as much as I do my Chanel Water Fresh tint, just because this is so multi-purpose for me. But if I am being honest with which actually looks better on the skin for that blurred look, it is this Sisley Phyto Teint Nude. It is absolutely beautiful. I wouldn't say this is the most like super long wearing foundation. I have done a full review on this foundation and a wear test, and for me it wears all day long, but if you're oilier and your skin type, you might have to go down and powder. But regardless of that, if you are looking for a blurring skin tint, this is the one for you. It is absolutely amazing for that blurred effect. And then for my favorite kind of everyday foundation that is the best for that blurring capability, I actually was really surprised by this. So I wanted to kind of do a little showdown between foundations. So I tried a bunch of foundations side by side and compared them and made notes. And the ones that were the best for that blurred look was the Guerlain Peau Gold. This is the Skincare Matte Foundation. Sorry, the writing has kind of come off, so I can't really see it anymore. But this is the new foundation. I don't believe this is released in the US, so I don't really want to talk about it anyways. It is available on Selfridges, and it's available at Sephora in Canada. But I don't believe in the US this is available. But anyways, the top contenders and the ones that had the most blurred look was this Guerlain Peau Gold Skin Care Matte Foundation. I think it's the Matte Glow Foundation. The Chanel Sublimage L'Essence de Teint, and the Dior Captured Totale Super Potent Serum Foundation. Those were the ones that added the best blurred look. But then when I compared them all, the one that actually came out as #1 is the Dior Capture Totale Super Potent Serum Foundation. This is just instant blurring in a bottle. It makes your skin look so perfected, so beautiful. But again, it adds that perfected blurred look without it looking like heavy makeup, without it looking cakey or makeup-y on the skin. This does have quite a bit of silicones in it, so that is probably why it gives that more blurred effect. But even though, like I said, it's very blurring, it is still very skin enhancing. Your skin just looks like your skin, but better. This doesn't look like heavy makeup. Again, this is a foundation that I reach for when I want my makeup to look really good in person, but I want a little bit more of a perfected look than, say, with these sheer skin tints. This is a great everyday foundation. This has fantastic longevity. I can wear it all day long, and I still get that blurred look throughout the day. Again, if you're oilier, you might have to touch up a little bit through the day, but if you're looking for that filtered, really smooth, that skin smoothing look that just looks so flattering, this is the foundation I would recommend, and it's an amazing foundation. I feel like it's really underrated and no one really talks about it, but this was the #1 when I looked at how it looked on the skin. So this is the best foundation for that really blurred look. Now let's talk about bronzer. So actually the bronzer was relatively easy because when it comes to cream bronzer, a lot of the time they aren't very, I don't want to say flattering, that's the wrong word, because they can be flattering on the skin, but if you're using a cream bronzer, sometimes they won't dry down on the skin, and therefore they reflect the light and can actually make texture on the skin look worse, which is why a lot of the times I recommend more powder bronzers, because I think they're just easier to use and they can be a little bit more flattering in natural light. But this Chantecaille Anti-Aging Face Tint has been a game changer for me in terms of cream bronzer, even though this is technically not a cream bronzer. It's, I don't know how I would describe it. I guess it's kind of a hybrid between a cream liquid bronzer. It kind of has this jelly consistency. It sort of looks like a pudding. So I would use it as a cream bronzer. Not only is this a very blurring bronzer, this is also the most natural looking cream bronzer that I have in my collection. It just melts into the skin, and it's such a unique product because I could have put this in the primer category as well if you just want a really nice tint on your skin. It doesn't add any coverage. Oh, okay, maybe it adds like the tiniest bit of coverage, like ultra sheer coverage. That's how I describe it. And it just adds a nice color and a tint to your skin. It doesn't look like makeup on the skin, and especially if you use this as a bronzer, it does not look heavy on the skin. It almost, like I said, it kind of melts into the skin. It blends with ease, but it has this really amazing blurring capability. So anywhere you have texture or pores, it just smooths over that area and instantly adds a soft focus effect to your skin. It just really does the best job of blurring the skin. It is really, really unique for a bronzing product. And this is just something I love when I just want my makeup to look absolutely flawless and perfected, but I still want that really natural bronze sun-kissed look. So I love that I can use this as a bronzer, but I can also use it as a skin tint just all over the face if I just want a nice, beautiful, really natural blurred look. So this is a great cream bronzer if you want that blurred look. And for a powder bronzer, it actually came down to two that are so similar. So the ones that I found had the best blurring capability were the Chanel Beige Oversized Healthy Glow Sun-Kissed Powder. This is now sold out. I chose this shade medium in this one. This is completely sold out. I don't know about the other shades, but this just had such a great blurring technology to it, even though it had a soft glow to it. Fantastic powder bronzer. But since that was discontinued, I obviously was testing out other bronzers, but then one that was comparable, they basically look the exact same on the skin. This is the Valentino bronzer. So I will, again, link this down below because this is a refill. This is not in the permanent packaging because I absolutely do not recommend that you pick up the permanent packaging because it's ridiculously expensive. So this is the Valentino Go Clutch On The Move bronzer, the refill, in the shade 0. So I believe it's called just Universal Bronzer in the shade 0. I keep on forgetting to mention the shade, and I'm so sorry about that, but it is in the shade 0. I believe it is sold out in the US. Hopefully it will come back into stock soon. But this is a really fantastic blurring bronzer. So when you apply it onto the skin, it has actually, these formulas are so similar, the Chanel and the Valentino. It has this really nice creamy consistency to it. It almost feels like it is a powder product that applies like a cream would. Like it goes from a powder to cream effect. It blends into the skin seamlessly. It just melts into the skin. It gives a very, it's not completely matte. There's a soft glow to it, but it's so finely milled and so creamy that it actually adds this blurring effect to your skin. So if you're someone that likes to apply bronzer, I typically don't like completely matte bronzers or really shimmery bronzers. You need to find that really nice balance in between because if it's too shimmery, it can actually emphasize texture. But if it's too matte, it also can emphasize texture and just make your skin look drab and dry. But this has the perfect consistency to it because it is such a creamy formula. And the way this looks on the skin is just incredibly flattering. Again, you get that really nice soft focus effect. You may feel like bronzer is not that important when you're looking for those blurring products, but I swear this is a game changer if you're looking for something with that filtered look. This bronzer is just so unique and beautiful. It is my absolute #1 pick for bronzers. It is amazing. And if you were someone that missed out on this Chanel bronzer, you have to pick up this Valentino when it comes back into stock. Again, get the refill, not the permanent packaging. I just realized I had completely skipped over powders, so let's quickly go over powders. If you saw my blurring powders video, you'll hear me talk about all these powders, so I'm gonna quickly go over them. If I want something that instantly perfects and smooths the skin, gives me that instant filtered look, the Clé de Peau translucent powder. So this is the Clé de Peau refining pressed powder. This does not add any color to your skin. It doesn't add any coverage, but what it does is it just slightly mattifies the skin, but it mattifies the skin and still retains that skin-like texture. It does not look like heavy makeup, but it instantly blurs the center of your face. It is flawless. It is beautiful. It is fabulous. My absolute favorite setting powder. This one does the best job of blurring out of all the powders that I'm mentioning. But if you are someone that does have discoloration, if you're someone that needs a little bit extra coverage, a little bit more mattifying, if you're maybe an oilier skin type, I would recommend the Chantecaille Perfect Blur Finishing Powder because this powder is a little bit more mattifying than the Clé de Peau. These are both very finely milled. This one is a baked powder though, so it's a little bit different. And this one does have color and adds a little bit of coverage to your skin as well. So if you're looking for something that will be a bit more perfecting because it does add a bit more coverage, I would recommend this. The Chantecaille is what I usually use if I'm going out for dinner, if I'm going out in the evening time, where I reserve the Clé de Peau for every day because, again, it looks just a little bit more natural on the skin. And then for a loose setting powder, because I felt like I had to mention a loose setting powder as well. I know some people just prefer that. the Rodeo Glass Loose Setting Powder. So it's the Rodeo Glass Powder. This is a really beautiful powder. Now I tend to reserve this mostly just because I prefer a pressed powder to set my foundation. I really like this for setting my under eyes. This is better than the Givenchy Loose Prism Libre Loose Powder. This is even more blurring on the under eyes. I feel like it's even more finely milled than that Givenchy. I mean, they're both very finely milled, but this powder is really, really great. It's a little bit deeper than a purely translucent powder, so it almost has a bit of a skin tint to it, but it doesn't add any coverage on the under eyes. What it does is it just blurs everything and makes your under eyes look completely set and just smooth. So it just looks like completely poreless and blurred and beautiful. If you're looking for a great under eye setting powder, highly recommend this one. It is really good. Now, I also just realized that I forgot to mention concealer. And honestly, when I was comparing all my concealers, I didn't find any that were like super duper blurring. I really like the Sisley concealer, but I didn't feel like that was blurring. I feel like it's just an under eye concealer that is really nice on the under eyes because it doesn't emphasize texture. But to me, it's not blurring. I would say the most blurring that I have is the Chanel Sublimage Look Corrector. So this is the Radiance Generating Concealer, Concealing Eye Care. Very new release for Chanel, the Sublimage Concealer. Really, really beautiful concealer. I would say this is the most blurring that I have in my collection, but I don't think it's comparable to like the foundations I mentioned that are just like super filtered look on your skin. This one is just the most blurring concealer that I have. It does a great job of counteracting any darkness on the under eyes. It's a very smoothing and really nice concealer, and definitely the most blurring that I have in my collection. And for blush, I feel like blush was another interesting category because I have a lot of favorite blushes, but blushes are a product that tend to either, you need to be really careful if you are looking to have that filtered look on your skin when choosing a blush, because if you choose a blush that's a little bit too shimmery, again, it's going to emphasize texture. But if you choose a blush that is too matte, very similar to the bronzer, it's almost going to make your skin look too dry and then make your texture look worse. So I feel like you need to find a blush that has that really creamy quality to it. It's a very finely milled powder. So I like those powders that apply like a powder, but they kind of have that creamy quality to them. So they're like a powder to cream finish. I have found that those are the best for blurring pores, that they have a very, very, very soft satin glow to them, but there are no shimmer particles to them. There are no shimmer flecks that you can notice in the daylight. So the three most blurring blushes that I found were the Valentino blushes, the Eye to Cheek Duo Blush. So you can use these on your eyes or the cheeks. These were really great for that blurring capability. Also the Clé de Peau, this is the blush duo in the shade number 105. I've heard different formulas have more shimmer to them, but the shade specifically 105, really great blurring capability. And then finally, the Gucci, this is the Cheeks and Eyes Powder Luminous Matte Blush. This also was really great for that blurring capability. So I would say if you have oily skin, I would recommend this Gucci blush because it's the most matte of all the products that I mentioned here. So if you are oily, the Gucci will be the best bet for you because it has just an ever so soft luminosity to it, but I almost feel like it's just the luminosity comes from the creaminess of this powder. Absolutely no shimmer particles to this, so I feel like this will be the best bet for you if you're oily. If you are extremely dry and maybe have more mature skin, I feel like the Valentino would be amazing because this has definitely the most sheen to it. But again, there's no shimmer particles, and this again has that great blurred effect on the skin. But the one that worked best for me and that had the most blurring was actually the Clé de Peau Blush Duo, again in the shade 105. This looked the most blurred on my skin. It had that it has the best soft focus effect on the skin where things just look really blurred. Again, there's not a huge noticeable difference between the two. These Valentino and Gucci are less expensive than the Clé de Peau, so you might just want to choose those for that reason. But if I had to give it to the number one pick, it was this Clé de Peau blush. It's just such a fantastic formula. Like I said, incredibly finely milled, powder to cream formula, I want to say. They're so soft when you feel these powders. They just feel like they feel like a fabric almost. It's so unique, ever so soft of a glow to it. I would say the Valentino is the most luminous, then the Clé de Peau, and then the Gucci is the most matte, kind of in that order of most luminous to most matte, if that makes sense. But this is just such a fantastic blush. It adds the perfect amount of color to my skin. It never looks over the top or overdone. Just a beautiful product. And I'm completely sure that you saw this coming, but when it came to choosing a highlight with that blurring capability, honestly, I couldn't mention any other highlighter because that's just, the purpose of a highlighter is to first add dimension back to the skin, to add that glow back to your skin. But unfortunately, when we're talking about highlighters, they do tend to have shimmer particles in them, which will actually emphasize texture and just make texture look worse. It's just kind of inherent in a glowy product that it will make your skin look more textured. So if you're someone with mature skin, if you have more fine lines, if you're really hyper aware of texture, if you're someone that maybe has more texture on your skin because you have acne or you have melasma or you have discoloration, you're going to want to either forego highlighter or you're going to want to use a product like this, the Chantecaille Lotus Perfect Blur Glow Powder. This is limited edition. I just checked. It is still in stock. Get your hands on this while you can. I absolutely love this, first of all. As a highlighter, if I want the most natural glow to my skin, so I will go in and use a brush like this. This is the Sonia G Mini Cheek, and I will just apply this as a highlighter. You almost can't even detect it as a highlighter on your skin because it is such a subtle glow. It just gives your skin an ever so soft glow. It's almost more of a powder product that adds a brightening effect to your skin versus it being a highlighter. It doesn't look like any sort of typical highlighter because, again, there are not those detectable shimmer particles in this. Yes, this is a powder with a glow, with a sheen, but there aren't actually like chunky particles. So when you go out in the sunlight, you're not going to see shimmer flecks on your skin either. And this is just a very unique powder because not only does it add a bit of a glow, a bit of a sheen to your skin, it does perfect and blur the skin as well. So it's very unique. It is incredibly difficult to find a powder like this. So if you are someone that still wants to highlight, but again, you maybe have textured skin, or you just really like that blurred look, this is the highlighter I'd recommend. So I like to use this as a highlighting product. And then at the end of my makeup application, I will buff this powder over everything. So I just buff all my makeup at the end to make it look even more natural and seamless. So it looks more skin-like on the skin instead of there being harsh lines. This is the powder I also use for that buffing technique because it just is so flattering on the skin and it gives that slight glow back to the skin. So this adds that skin-like effect back to the skin while also adding this really nice soft focus effect, which again, very unique for a powder like this. I have completely raved about this powder. I've gone on and on. I'm sure it's annoying, but I had to recommend that because it's great. And I just want to say I'm really sorry if this video was extremely repetitive in the words that I use, but it's really hard. When you're talking about the best blurring products, it's hard to use different words to describe products, but I tried to keep it as concise as possible. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know down below your favorite blurring products because I would love to hear from you and try some new things out because I just love blurring products. They're my favorite. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like this video if you like it, and I'll see you in my next video.